All right, folks, in this video, I'm going to give you all an update on the Southeast Florida housing market because we are seeing some crazy things happen in Southeast Florida right now. And when I say Southeast Florida, I mean Miami-Dade, I mean Fort Lauderdale, I mean West Palm Beach. Home values are dropping in all of these areas as we speak. We're seeing some of the biggest declines we've seen in over a decade, and these declines actually are great news for you all as prospective home buyers and investors across Southeast Florida. And I'm going to actually lead off this video, and I'm live, by the way, so get your requests ready, but I'm going to lead off this video showing you just how much home buyer demand in Miami and Southeast Florida has gone down. We're looking at data on Reventure app right now, data from Redfin on home sales. You could see 3,600 home sales in the three-county Miami metro in July 2025. That's down 55% from the peak 4 years ago. So the buyer demand in Miami has absolutely fallen off a cliff, and we have the lowest buyer demand we've seen in at least 13 years. So that's the fundamental thing driving the decline in home values we're seeing in Southeast Florida. It's the lower demand. It's not just lower demand. It's sales volume down 55% from peak and 30% from normal. So the buyers have dropped out of the market. And as the buyers have dropped out of the market, the inventory on the market has surged. And the reason this is happening, everyone, is because Miami got a little bit too expensive during the pandemic. Southeast Florida, the prices, the rents, they went up a little bit too much. They went up ahead of the fundamentals. And now there's a slowdown in migration, not as many people moving in, leaving the local population in Miami to support the prices. And of course, they can't afford it. They can't afford to pay these prices in Miami. I mean, if we were to go on Zillow in Miami right now and just look at some of these prices, everyone, yes, they're going down. They're down about 3.5% over the last year, but these prices are still really, really expensive. I actually was just looking here on Zillow at a foreclosure. You can see it says foreclosure right here on Zillow. Uh-oh, the foreclosures are starting to come. Well, this is a 3-bed, 2-bath on the market for $699. And looks like this was a flip, maybe. I don't know if a flipper ran out of money or something like that. But you could see this house previously sold for or was listed for around 800. No, it was listed for, oh my gosh. At one point, folks, this house was listed for $1.4 million. Hold on, I'm gonna make my camera here a little smaller so you guys can see this. It was sold in April 2022 for $666,000. And I presume it was then flipped and relisted at 1.4 million. Well, now it's a foreclosure at 699. And this is just the type of thing that happens in Miami's housing market, right? Miami is a boomer bust market. There's a lot of speculators, there's a lot of investors, there's a lot of home flippers, and they all pile in during the peak of the bubble. They all piled in 2021 and 2022. Now the tide is receding, and we're just seeing a lot of these people get caught. And this happened in Miami 15 years ago. If you guys remember, let me know if you all remember what happened in Miami 15 years ago. It was a 50% housing crash 15 years ago. Prices went down 50%. Foreclosure rate in Miami went up to like 12% or 11%. I mean, it was a massive downturn in that last crash. I don't necessarily know if we're going to get to that same point this time around. I don't necessarily think we're going to get a 50% decline in values, but prices are very overvalued in Miami today. The buyer demand has dropped off and they're already starting to go down. So let's take a look at how much values actually are going down in and around Miami. And when I'm talking about Miami, I'm talking about Southeast Florida. I'm talking about the 3-county Miami metro area, which includes Miami-Dade. As we change to county view here on Reventure app. Bear with me, everyone. I am live right now, so if I make some mistakes, if I say something's a little incorrect or I'm a little slow, just understand it's because I'm live streaming. So we got Miami-Dade, we got Broward, and we got Palm Beach. These are the 3 counties. And you can see home sales are just plummeting in all of these counties, down 17% in Palm Beach year over year, 29% in Miami-Dade. All these counties have the lowest demand in 13 years. At the same time, inventory in all these counties is way up. We're at 13,000 homes on the market in Palm Beach, 17,000 homes on the market in Broward, 19,000 homes on the market in Miami-Dade. So a lot of inventory. And in terms of home values, how much the values have dropped. Take a look at this, everyone. In Palm Beach, they're down 5.2% in the last year. So home values in Palm Beach County are down 5.2% in the last year. Broward County is down 4%. So Broward County is Fort Lauderdale, Pompano Beach, Coral Springs. It's down 4% already. Miami-Dade is only down 2.4%. So Miami-Dade is the strongest so far in terms of values not going down as much. But, very clearly we have entered a housing correction here in Southeast Florida. And over the last year, when I lived in Florida, I heard so many people in the comments section on YouTube, on Instagram, they would say to me, Nick, there's no housing downturn in Southeast Florida. You're only talking about West Coast of Florida. Only West Coast of Florida has a downturn. That's what everyone was saying over the last year. Well, now it is officially spread to Southeast Florida. And this is something that a lot of the mainstream news outlets are now picking up on. It isn't only me talking about it, it's also a lot of the big news outlets. And what some sellers now are doing in Miami, everyone, is like they're starting to actually pull their homes from the market. This was an article from Fox Business talking about how Miami leads the nation in home delistings as sellers play the waiting game for better returns. Ratio of delistings to new listings hit 59 to 100 in Miami in the most recent month, according to Realtor.com. So what that means is that in July or August, for 100 new listings, 59 existing sellers pulled their listings because, a lot of these sellers in Miami, they still don't totally know what's going on in this market. They still think they can get their price from 3 or 4 years ago, and they get frustrated when there's no buyers. A lot of them have no idea that home buyer demand is down at the lowest level in 15 years. So they come to the market, they don't get their price, and then they pull their listing. However, this is just like a game of hot potato, a game of musical chairs. I mean, if you pull your listing right now in Southeast Florida, and I know some of you watching are thinking of selling, so I'm talking to you guys right now. If you're thinking of selling, right, or you are selling, just understand if you pull your listing, hoping for a better outcome in 3 to 6 months. Maybe you're thinking like Fed rate cuts are coming. Maybe you're thinking mortgage rates are going to drop. The market's going to rejuvenate itself. I understand your perspective as far as that goes, but just understand in terms of the data, this is the weakest the Miami housing market has been in 15 years. And it's due to a lack of affordability, and it's due to prices being very overvalued. So this is not a market that's just going to suddenly snap back to having a lot of demand. This housing cycle and this housing downturn in Southeast Florida, it's going to have to play out over the next couple years. Prices are going to have to get cheaper for multiple years before I think we're going to see the buyers come back into the market. And, one way, you notice is just by looking at a simple metric, everyone. It's the mortgage payment. How much do you need to pay for a mortgage? You guys can guess. You can let me know. How much do you need to pay for a mortgage in Southeast Florida right now? Well, in Miami-Dade, the typical mortgage payment is $3,400 a month. $3,400 a month. Take a look, folks, at this graph. I'm going to try to zoom in on this graph and hopefully not destroy the screen. $3,400 a month. Prior to the pandemic, the typical mortgage payment was around $1,300 a month in Miami. I mean, folks, this is crazy how much the costs have gone up. Look at this. $1,300 a month in 2020. Now we're at $3,400 a month. And that's probably, that's middle range. If you want to buy a nice house in Miami, we're going to talk about some neighborhoods in Southeast Florida in a second where prices are dropping. If you want to buy a nice house, you're going to have to spend more than $3,400, $3,500 a month. But this is just not sustainable. And if we look at the mortgage payment as a percentage of income, which is really my favorite metric, you could see local home buyers in Miami need to pay 54% of their income on the mortgage. Not sustainable. Long-term average is 39%. We're going to need to get back down to that 39% level before I think we see the buyers come back into the market. And if we just zoom in here and look on some zip codes, everyone, let's do some zip code analysis here in Miami so you guys can see what's going on, and make sure to leave some requests. We already got some requests coming in here. We actually got some people in the Northeast in the comments section. So I guess we'll do maybe cover the Northeast here at the end. Let's get some people from Florida in the comments section here on the live stream getting some requests. I'll get to your requests later in this video. But first, let's take a look at some zip codes, year-over-year home value growth. So for those of you that don't know, the tool I'm using here in this app, in this video is called Reventure app. This is a tool I developed to help you all as a home buyer and investor better understand the market. So at the end of this video, you can go to www.reventure.app, access all this data for your zip code so you can understand where the market's heading. But let's answer the question, where are values going down the most in Southeast Florida right now? Well, definitely, I mean, there's definitely a condo downturn going on, right? So if you were to go to like Aventura, which is, Miami-Dade County, north of Miami Beach, 10% decline in values in Aventura over the last year. So that's already happened. 10% decline in values over the last year. I mean, it's not good, everyone. I mean, that's the biggest drop in Aventura since 2009. Wow, think about that. I know a lot of people say, oh, well, 10% drop's not that big a deal because prices went up 35%. Well, they did go up 35%, but 10% in a year, that's the third worst year we've seen in the last 25 years in Aventura. And that's delivering more affordability. So that's actually a good thing. I say third worst year. It's actually the third best year if you're a prospective home buyer wanting cheaper prices. Hollandale Beach down 10.5% in the last year. If we go further up towards Fort Lauderdale, you can see Pompano Beach down 12.7%. 12.7% decline in Pompano Beach. That might be the biggest one. So actually one cool thing you can do on Reventure app here, everyone, is open up like a metro area and then go to table view. And then you could sort and see the zip codes with the biggest drops, or maybe prices are up. In Delray Beach, prices are down 14% in the last year. I mean, in 1 year, down 14%. And it shows you actually how bifurcated this market is, because there are some zip codes where prices are actually still up. Boca Raton, prices are up. So it totally depends still where you are. Not all areas in Miami are experiencing the downturn. You can see some pockets in red here where the prices are still going up. But if we head up further also to Palm Beach, I know a lot of people love West Palm Beach right now. They love Palm Beach. And to be clear, there's a big difference between Palm Beach and West Palm Beach. Palm Beach is like the super wealthy area. That's where Mar-a-Lago is. That's only down 1.8%, Palm Beach. But then if you go to Cypress Lakes in West Palm Beach County, it's down 11%. So again, big regional differences. You guys really got to dig into the zip code level data to kind of figure out what's going on in your market. But overall, what I think is interesting, right? If we zoom out to Metro View here on Reventure app, so you can look at this data for any city in America, everyone. So if you are looking in the Northeast, you could still look at this data for the Northeast. But we're going to talk about Florida here. Pretty much every metro in Florida is now in decline. Every metro in Florida is in decline. And it's telling you that the downturn here in Florida is broadening. It started for sure on the West Coast, right? On the West Coast, we have some areas that are down 10%. Now it's hitting Miami. Now it's hitting Southeast Florida. And there really isn't any area of Florida now that's being spared. Every area of Florida pretty much is seeing declining prices. And I think the thing that makes me think that this is going to continue in the future, right? And in a second, I'm going to reveal my forecast for Florida and Miami over the next year. But it's really two data points, right? It's the inventory. So in Florida's housing market at a statewide level, we have 175,000 homes for sale. 175,000 homes for sale. That's the most in, I think, at least 15 years. This data goes back to 2017. I think it's at least back to 2012, highest inventory. So we have really high inventory. Meanwhile, home sales in Florida are down to 28,000 in July 2025, which is a big drop in home sales from the long-term average. So if you see home sales down, inventory up, what does that tell you as a buyer investor? It tells you cheaper prices are ahead. The question is, how much are those prices going to go down? Well, I'm going to give you my forecast here in a second and explain to you all how you can access that forecast. But first, let's look at more listings on Zillow, because one of my favorite things to do in these live streams, everyone, is to just go through different listings and just let's pick some random ones and just see what's going on. Like we got a listing here in Miami, 3-bed, 2-bath. 1,600 square feet. If you guys want to just shout out a zip code in the chat that you want me to cover, shout out a zip code in the chat that you want me to cover. But this zip code 33165, $630,000 house. You guys can let me know what you think this house is worth. Do you think it's worth $630,000? Well, 1,600 square feet, that's $386 a foot. Let's look at the history. Do we have any history on this house? Whew, well, this house sold for $123,000 in 1994. And then it was listed for sale in September 2024 at $795,000. Now, did they do renovations? I'm sure they put some money into it over the last 31 years, for sure. I'm sure they put some money into it. Did they put $650,000 of renovations into it? I don't know, probably not. So they listed at $795,000 in September 2024. They've now cut it to $630,000. So they've done a $160,000 price cut. This house has been on the market for almost a year. And this is, what you're seeing actually in a lot of Florida and a lot of Southeast Florida. It's like we're seeing price cuts, but maybe the prices haven't been cut enough to bring the buyers back into the market. Now, let's just do some analysis on this zip code, 33165. So let's go to Reventure app, open up 33165. All right, so this is, I guess, a neighborhood called Westwood Lake Olympia Heights. So let's do a quick and dirty analysis here. Like, do we think prices are going to go up or down in this area? Well, in the last 12 months, they're flat. It's actually expensive. This is actually an expensive area to buy a house. $675,000 typical price. What's the median household income? $88,000. Not that high. We have actually a user here in the chat that has a very interesting comment that I'm going to show you guys. We have a user here in the chat. I'm going to find a way to make this bigger for you guys somehow. Oh, here we go. Here's the chat so far. Bird Brain Investments requested a zip code here, and he's saying that my home went up about 90% since 2020. He's expecting a 40 to 50% decline. Wow. 40 to 50% decline is a lot. We'll have to see if that happens. We'll check out that zip code in 1 second. But first, let's finish analyzing 33165. We have a house here for $630,000. Do we think this area is going to go down in value or up in value in the future? Well, what is the inventory? Let's look at the inventory. We're up to 107 homes, which is back to pre-pandemic inventory. So the inventory is up, but it's not crazy. All right. What about the home sales? The home sales are in the tank. The home sales are literally at the lowest level by far in 13 years. Meanwhile, the days on market is up to 59 days. And the price cut rate is at 28%. So inventory back to normal, price cut rate high, days on market getting back to normal, home sales really low. We have a minus 1.7% forecast in this zip code, everyone. So Reventure app has a 12-month forecast for every single zip code in America, which you guys should go access. You can access that data under a premium plan. Every single zip code in America we have a forecast for. I wouldn't be surprised if our forecast gets more negative in this zip code, given how low the buyer demand is. It suggests inventory is going to go up by more in the future and helps explain, why this seller here has just had a lot of trouble selling their house. They've had to cut $160,000 already. Payment at the current list price is $5,300 a month. I mean, it's a lot of money still, everyone. All right, let's get into some of these requests, everyone. All right, so we got St. Augustine, Florida, 32084. 32084. Okay, let's take a look at 3 or 4 requests. 32084. And so this is kind of also how you can use Reventure app, everyone. Type in your zip code. Get taken your zip code, 32084. So in St. Augustine, for those of you that don't know, it's in the northeast part of the state. It's near Jacksonville. So in the last 12 months in St. Augustine, values are down 3%. So they're already correcting here. We think values are going to drop another 5.3% over the next 12 months on our price forecast in this zip code. So you can actually see values have dropped 3 years in a row, and we think the value drop is going to get bigger in the future based on a lot of inventory, heavy DOM. Let's take a look at another forecast. Let's keep it moving, everyone. Let's keep it moving. How about 37174? 37174. Okay, 37174. And if you guys want to conduct this analysis on your own, go to www.reventure.app. Oh, we're going to Tennessee, everyone. So I know this is a video on Miami, but we just got a request in Tennessee. Spring Hill, Tennessee. Values are down 0.5% year over year. But where are they going to go in the next 12 months? Oh, boy. Look at this. Minus 7.2% downward forecast. Let me just show you guys this on the map. Minus 7.2% downward forecast here south of Nashville. So we think the value is going to drop from 518 to 481 over the next 12 months. And again, this isn't story on inventory, story on days on market, story on home sales. Whew, big downward price pressure south of Nashville. All right, what other requests we got here, everyone? 32084. Where is 32084? 32084 is also in St. Augustine. Did I actually just cover that one? Did I just cover that one twice? I just covered that one twice. I apologize, everyone. 33578. 33578. Okay, let's take a look. Let's take a look. Oh, Riverview. Riverview, Florida. This is near Tampa. Oh boy. This is a big downward forecast, everyone. This is a 9% downward forecast in Riverview. So this is near Tampa. 9% downward forecast. We're already down 5.6% in the last year. But we're forecasting another 9% drop in the next 12 months. And again, I just kind of want to quickly walk you through this, guys. Like, how do we come up with this forecast? It's based on recent appreciation trends, days on market, mortgage rates, inventory, and price cuts. So in this zip code, inventory is through the roof. Inventory is way, way up from the long-term average. Price cut rate up from the long-term average. Days on market. Oh my gosh, days on the market is up to 72 days. The long-term average is 42 days. We're up to 72 days, 30 days more than normal. So these sellers are saying to themselves in Riverview, they're saying like, well, what is going on here? Why can't I sell my house? Well, the market's in a correction. We think values are going to drop another 9% over the next year. Do we have any more requests, everyone? I have time for one more request. If I didn't get to your request, I apologize. I have limited time in these live streams, but you can always go on www.reventure.app and check out the data for yourself. All right. 33776. 33776. Seminole, Florida. Oh, we are back in Pinellas County, where I used to live up until 2 weeks ago. Seminole, Florida. I know some people personally who actually live here or looking at buying houses here. Values are already down 7.5% in the last 12 months. So last 12 months, we're down 7.5 in Seminole. We think prices are going to drop 9.3% over the next 12 months. So this is another area, lots of inventory, heavy DOM. And let me just show you the DOM, everyone. Like, this is a data point I don't talk about as much. Talk about inventory all the time, but look at the DOM. I mean, it's almost kind of funny. Like, we were at 27 days on the market in July 2021. We are now at 71 days on the market. And just think about like sellers in a zip code like this. Because I still know there's so many sellers overpricing their house, right? Like, and they're thinking that they're going to get this price. They're thinking they're going to get the price when the DOM was 27 days, but now it's 71 days. And all these other sellers around them are just having their homes sit on the market. And ultimately, this is a beautiful thing if you're a prospective buyer, right? This is great news. And I just want to be so clear about this, right? This is not negative. This is fantastic if you're a buyer or investor. Prices are getting cheaper all throughout Florida and have now started getting cheaper in Southeast Florida, which was like the place that was holding on. The holding on the longest was Southeast Florida. Now Southeast Florida is even starting to get more expensive. The thing is, it got so expensive during the pandemic that these initial declines, it's like, all right, you know, it's gotten a bit more affordable, but I think the average buyer needs to see more affordability. And if you guys want to access any of this data for yourself, which I actually think you have to, if you're a prospective home buyer or investor, you have to access this data before making a decision, because otherwise you could be walking into a big mistake. You could be losing a lot of money, and you could be missing out actually on getting a discount in a deal in an area that is going down. So type in your city, go to www.reventure.app right now, type in your city, open up the zip code view, and then find your zip code. You could also type in your zip code. And the thing you're going to want to access is the 12-month price forecast for your area. So we have a 12-month price forecast for almost every zip code in the US based on underlying data. This is based on actual underlying data in the market. We actually are still forecasting prices to go up in some zip codes in Miami, but it totally depends on where you live. This 12-month forecast is going to really help you as a home buyer or investor make a more educated decision. You can unlock it at a cost of $49 per month under the Reventure Premium plan. It's one of the best ROIs you can get for a real estate app, everyone. $49 a month to save $49,000 potentially. So go to www.reventure.app right now, access that 12-month forecast, and until next